There's literally hundreds of things, thousands of things that you can do. It's just changing up the routine, doing new and different things. Obviously, having children, they're a great blessing, but don't let children and not having a babysitter keep you from doing new and exciting things and spicing up the romance that you guys have.
Listening to Healing Broken Trust podcast with Brad and Morgan Robinson, where we talk about healing from affairs, infidelity, trust, and cheating in your relationship from the perspective of a professional marriage therapist and affair recovery expert. If you're wanting to heal your marriage, this podcast is for you. And we're officially on episode number 14, where we're talking about how do we rekindle romantic love after infidelity. And that's a very important question. So before I move on, I want to remind you that you can go to healingbrokentrust.com/episode 14, that's the number 14, and download your free resources to go along with this episode. It's going to really help you in expediting your change. So go to healingbrokentrust.com/episode 14. And now let's go to our radio show recording of How to Rekindle Romantic Love.
Morgan, I want to move on to how to rekindle romantic love when it's lost. This is kind of related to a listener question that we had, that's why I wanted to get into this.
Do you want me to read the question?
Yeah.
So a person wrote in and they said, I've been listening to you talk about falling out of love. I've been married to my spouse for 20 years. I would like to know how to fall back into love with my spouse.
Okay. That's a great question. Part of this listener is it's doing these things that we talked about last week on the show on how to fall out of love, and thank you for contacting us. But there's also, even if you're married and you're not in an affair, on how to develop romantic love. Well, this comes from Helen Fisher. Her book, Why We Love, came out in 2004, and she is an anthropologist who has studied the brain.
Wow.
And she has discovered that, and it's really simple, she has discovered that when we do new, exciting, and different activities with our spouse, those exciting experiences enhances feelings of attraction. And so this is very important. When we do new, exciting, different experiences together, new and different is the key here.
Interesting.
It enhances feelings of attraction. So when you do something with your spouse that gives you a feeling of danger, it stimulates adrenaline. As Helen Fisher pointed out, makes us feel closer and more romantic with our spouse. So doing new, exciting, and different activities elevates the level of dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is the chemical associated with romantic love. And research has pointed out that couples who do exciting, adrenaline-pumping activities as compared to less stimulating, who do more kind of normal activities,
get stuck in their ways.
The routine. So people who do more adrenaline-exciting activities, they have increased feelings and more intense feelings of romantic love than those who just get stuck in their routines.
And happiness, general happiness.
Yeah, that's a good, I'm glad you pointed that out. They have more, just a general happiness.
Yeah.
And so this can work even if you're the only one trying to work on the marriage. I had a lady come in, and occasionally we see individuals who come in, and we're happy to work with anybody who wants to work on the marriage. And she was the only one that was able to. And she took her husband to an exciting event, and he had an affair and he was ready to leave.
Yeah.
And this helped them just spark that romantic love again. And helped him to make up his mind that he wanted to stay. It doesn't have to be things that are expensive. It could be, just trying a different restaurant, different part of town. It doesn't have to be things expensive.
Going to a new duck pond, which is something we like to do.
Yeah, we like to go to duck ponds and feed the ducks bread in town. It's just simple. It's if you go to a gas station and get bread, it's $4. You learn that
just so you know.
Just so you know. If you go get it at the grocery store, it's cheaper, but it doesn't have to be expensive. When you're doing these new, exciting, different activities, it elevates the level of dopamine in your brain. Dopamine is the chemical associated with romantic love, and research has pointed out that couples who do that are happier. So this can work if you're the only one trying to work on the relationship. Yeah. Invite your spouse to join you in something risky and exciting. Maybe travel overnight or travel out of the country. Go bungee jumping, river rafting, even trying a new restaurant. Yeah. Doesn't have to be these big, crazy
elaborate
things.
It
didn't have to be that at all. It could be just, instead of watching TV, let's get out the board game.
Yeah.
Doing something at the last minute, like going to a sports game or going to the movies at the last minute.
Yeah. Or
swimming after the sun goes down.
Oh, that's fun.
It's important to understand that anything rousing and unusual has the potential to trigger romantic love. Anything that gives you a feeling of new, different, that works. Anything it releases adrenaline, that's exciting, maybe a little bit of dangerous, that also releases that. And that's also, Morgan, why when people are first in love, when people first meet, there's so much in love because everything's new and different. And they go on dates. It's new experiences, new things that are different.
Yeah.
And that's why also people usually when they're on vacation, they report that's probably their best times together.
You know, it takes me back to our first date. It really does, thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. It was supposed to last an hour and a half, and it lasted 10 hours.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun.
We had a lot of random funness, so that was great.
And so here's some other ideas. These are just ideas, just a handful. If you see something on the side of the road that's interesting, just pull off and go explore.
Yeah.
You don't have anywhere to be, just go look at it. Going to the gun range together.
Oh, that's fun.
Different and exciting.
Love to do that.
It's dangerous. Swimming in the backyard at night. We talked about that. Taking a last-minute trip somewhere. And instead of going to a normal movie and a dinner, maybe just watching a movie in the backyard. Create your own little projector.
Put a sheet up.
Yeah. There's literally hundreds of things, thousands of things that you can do. It's just changing up the routine, doing new and different things. Obviously, having children, they're a great blessing. But don't let children and not having a babysitter keep you from doing new and exciting things and spicing up the romance that you guys have.
Right.
Part of this is if your spouse has fallen out of love with you, let me say this, you don't necessarily have to intentionally be romantic to fall back in love with you. And what I mean is, if you want them to fall in love with you, do not try to be overtly romantic. Don't go have a candlelit dinner with the music playing and try to create romance that way. Create romantic feeling, that romantic love feeling, by just doing new and exciting things. And that it's a little bit more, it's not as in your face, it's not as obvious that you're trying to do that, but it's funner as well. And so if you try to do something, have these, it's more, I worked with a couple where the husband had fallen out of love and the wife was trying to recreate romantic love. And what this does is, if you focus on, he was no longer in love with her. He didn't want to be married to her. She was trying to get him to love her back. And so she wanted to take him to romantic dinner. And all that does is, if you take somebody to romantic dinner that doesn't love you and that's wanting to leave you, and you take them to romantic dinner, all they're thinking about is how much they don't love you anymore.
Oh, during this romantic dinner.
It drives them nuts because they're thinking, I don't love this person.
Why are we at this romantic dinner?
Why are we here? I don't feel this way. And it actually pushes them further away. But if you do something new, different, unusual, it will help them recreate that romantic love.
And reconnect.
But if you try to do it more obvious like that, they're all they're thinking is I don't feel this way towards you, and it actually pushes them further away. You take them somewhere that's different, new, and exciting. Focus on that. Don't focus on trying to be romantic. If you focus on what's new, exciting, and different, you're going to create romantic love. If you
as a byproduct.
Yeah, as a byproduct. But if you focus on getting romantic love and getting your spouse to love you back only by doing what are conventional romantic things, they're not going to love you back. In fact, and you tell them, you love me. Do you love me back? You tell them things like that, you're just pushing them away.
And they're going to say no.
Yeah.
And that's going to work. That's going to feel worse.
Yeah. But what you're doing is you're doing kind of normal activities, quote unquote, normal, everyday activities, so to speak. And then they're going to discover that they love you on their own.
Yeah, and that's the best way.
And that's the best way. Thanks for listening to Healing Broken Trust. If you like this episode, you can always get our show notes and more details and links to the resources we discussed at healingbrokentrust.com. Also, as long as you're online, head on over to healingbrokentrust.com/retreat for details on an upcoming one-on-one retreat with me. If you like us, please subscribe and leave a review for us on iTunes. As always, everything discussed on this podcast is either my opinion or Morgan's opinion and is not to be taken as relationship advice because I'm not your therapist, nor have I considered your personal situation as your therapist. This podcast is for your entertainment and education only, and I really do hope you've enjoyed it. See you until next time.